it was incredibly hard for us to watch the images of, for example, the airport in Kabul being overrun by civilians, people trying to grab onto airplanes. Sure. Sitting in the Situation Room and sitting in my office in the West Wing. I mean, that was a period of time in which we were basically working all around the clock as things started to unravel. Extremely hard to watch those images and understand the discomfort that many Americans had, and frankly, people had around the world in addressing that. The hardest day maybe that I've ever had as a policy person was the day that we lost 13 American service members who were trying to execute the U.S. withdrawal and the evacuations from Afghanistan. I remember sitting in the Situation Room with the president, with the rest of the national security team, including basically the president's entire national security cabinet as that unfolded, and we got periodic updates about the bombing that had taken place. Horrific. And, you know, I don't think there's a day that's gone by that those of us who worked on that haven't thought about those people and what they sacrificed for the country. All of that said, I think the decision was correct. I think the execution was extremely complicated. We asked our forces on the ground to do something extremely hard. They ended up doing it, I think, to an extremely high degree of professionalism. They got tens of thousands, ultimately I think now more than 100,000, closer to 200,000 Afghans who had worked alongside the U.S. out of the country. And they were able to do that under extremely difficult circumstances. We paid a price for it. I'm not going to deny that we did.
And with the benefit of hindsight, is there anything else you would have done differently?
You know, I think I will think about that probably for the rest of my life. And, you know, I do ask myself questions. You know, could we have slowed down the timeline somehow and therefore made the process a little less complicated, a little less messy than it ultimately ended up being? I think that's a very legitimate question to ask. I will say there were arguments on the other side. You know, when we talked about the timeline on which to execute the president's decision, we knew if we took too long, the Taliban would start to attack us again. By the way, they didn't attack us during the course of that withdrawal. They did attack the Afghan government. They did take back much of the rest of the country. They did not attack U.S. forces. A terrorist group attacked U.S. forces that was not part of the Taliban. The Taliban is now actually fighting. So that's one thing that I do think about. Could we have slowed it down? What we heard, you know, from our military commanders in the field and in the Pentagon was that speed in terms of executing the withdrawal was safety. That moving quickly to get people out would be the safest possible way to do it from the perspective of force protection. Force protection was a high priority, maybe even one of the highest priorities for the president in executing his decision. But I don't think, I think I will always wonder whether and what we could have done differently.